You thought we were back?
All right, well, we're back now. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. We've had a lot of things going on. We've been learning a lot of different things, but now it's time to record another podcast because we got to give this information, you guys. I'm Andrew Garcia. Andrew's not fit. And here's Brett Thiem.
Brett theme.
And today's episode is going to be talking about the differences and similarities between fascia training and weight training and why combining the two makes you the ultimate human. So first thing we want to start with is Brett, you take the reins. Just talk a little bit about what you've been learning recently and how things have been a little bit different for you.
Yeah, I think there's not really too much of a difference between the two. Like if you're lifting, you are training fascia. And so I think where it gets confused is the movements that you're doing. And it's more of when you think of fascia training, you think of integrating the structure as a whole instead of isolating different parts or trying to do like a bodybuilding type split. Rather, it's full integration of the whole body starting from the feet. And so either whatever you're doing, you're going to be programming your fascia. You're going to be downloading information, movement information into your body by way of the nervous system and by way of the fascia. And so that's what's really interesting to me is like how it's like a second nervous system almost. The fascia is how it has a memory of its own. And the things that you download or do in your movement, your not only is your brain going to remember that, but your body and your fascia is going to remember that as well.
100%. And I mean, one of the biggest things that makes the fascia special is this term called viscoelasticity. So the term viscous means that it holds place. And I I have come to learn that the fascia itself is what determines our bone structure and our muscle structure because of that viscous property of it. Now, we could get to the elasticity part, which is what allows it to jump and allows it to stretch and then allows it to do these explosive moments and get explosive movements and come right back together. But the viscous is what keeps it from tearing apart. And it's what keeps our bones and everything in place. So the fascia itself has a memory. The way we use it and the way we implement our lifting, the way we implement our movement systems, the way we walk, the way we sit, all of that determines our fascial structure, which then determines our bone structure. So it's like how do you work out is how you're gonna move in real life. And that's just that's a real cool thing. It's a real cool thing.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most interesting things that I've been reading up on recently is that is like it's like a second nervous system that tissue is. It's like muscle memory, you could say. Um, yeah, it's like muscle memory. Like what you pattern, your body is going to remember, and it only makes sense. Like if you continuously do a movement, your body is going to remember that. So if you do a movement that is going to translate well to, let's just say, gait pattern or whatever the sport is you're training for and whatnot, your body's going to remember that. And so it's very interesting how your brain, like you can think something, like you can think about doing a movement this way, but the body is subconsciously referring back to those patterns that you've given it over time.
100%. 100%. And I mean, something that really interests me as of late is learning how not just it's not just the joint system that needs to be in place. Like it's not just the knees, not just the feet, because over the last few years, I've solely focused on that joint angle, but it's the whole thing of the tensional balance that you're maintaining throughout the body. So there's another term called tensegrity, which is just your body's ability to hold tension. And while I knew the term
Balanced tension.
balance tension, right? And while I knew the term, it's not knowing a term doesn't mean you understand it. Knowing a joint angle doesn't mean you understand it. it's the whole thing. You have to feel it to understand it, to truly understand it. So all these terms, all these things, like I've been learning them, but you don't truly understand the whole concept until you go about the feelings. So I've just been learning about the fascia recently and how maybe that's the key.
Yeah.
And is it the key to make for everybody? Yes and no. Yes and no, because certain people have different goals. So do you need to go as deep as we're going into this to be a better mover? Not really. But if you do want to have really athletic endeavors, or you want to be really athletic, you want to like perform at an extremely high level, I think
Hmm.
these are the key things that a lot of people are missing that can make them a step above everybody else.
Yeah, well, and if you just think about how the movements, like for example, let's just look at swimming. When you're fully stretched out with the arm, the whole arm line, the whole lateral line, all these different lines of fascia that you can study about and understand and train in a certain way, it makes sense to the sport. You look at tennis, like with the way they have to move, or golf, any dynamic sport that involving rotation or just uh, explosive type movements. Training the fascia is going to be like doing those fascial type exercises is really going to translate to the sport quite well versus like a joint by joint approach.
So let's go a little bit deeper into what a fascia exercise is. Let's
Yeah, give some of the examples as to like what those exercises may look
so
like.
if we're going to think about training the fascia, the reason why you'd call it quote unquote fascia training is because you're following lines. So if you look at the
Exactly.
body and you look at it in terms of the lines, then you can understand training patterns a little bit more. Because if we're looking at the lateral line and we're looking at the spiral line, something like the landmine completely hits that
Hmm.
because we're coiling the body, we're getting all that rotational energy, and then we're connecting from the finger all the way to the toe. And so something like the landmine itself, all those exercises are great for the fascia lines. If you're going to do kettlebells, something like a snatch, a split stance snatch, you're following those lines. So it's understanding, it's not exactly a specific movement itself, it's how you execute the movement based on the lines that the fascia tells you.
Yeah, and I think coming to an understanding that most things you're doing are quote unquote fascial exercises, right? Like let's just look at like something as simple as like a forward fold stretch. Like people would think about that being a hamstring stretch. Like some people would even call it a hamstring stretch, but not noting that there's tissue running from toes to forehead, like a continuous line of tissue that can be seen in a cadaver. Like it's tissue running from feet to head around the backside of your body. So when you're doing
And
something
let's
like
be
a,
clear as well, bodybuilding training is also fascia training. It's
yeah,
also fascia training because the fascia is being manipulated, it is being moved.
and so that's something else as well that you could get into is like when you consider that and you consider like, okay, let's say we do a whole lot of bicep curls, tricep extensions. What is that doing to my arm line? Because there is tissue running from fingers to ribs as like a
Right.
continuous line
There's a way to do
of
integrated bodybuilding training as well. There's a way
exactly.
because
So
I
you
mean,
consider what is that tension, like all that buildup in the bicep, like what is that doing? Is that limiting your range of motion? And is that range of motion problem, like is that a shoulder problem or is that a whole arm line problem? You see what I mean? So understanding that you are always training that tissue, but with understanding that you have to understand how to integrate the whole system together.
yeah, like something like something that I've really loved because I hate doing bicep curls, but I also want big arms, so that you got to do a little trade off. I've been doing one of these functional patterns movements where like they take a step forward, they curl, and then they get into they take another step and then they press.
Hmm.
So you're kind of doing it while like using the rotation of the step to lift that bicep. So a big thing that functional patterns talks about, which again, like we have none, neither one of us have taken a functional patterns course, so that let that be known. But we pay attention to a lot of the stuff that we see on social media. We pay attention to a lot of the out of the lives. I go on Naughty Aguilar's lives a lot, and he talks about the function of the biceps in the gait pattern, which is true. Like your arms, they hold a very integral part of your running, of your walking,
Yeah, I
of
mean,
your
think about
throwing.
the timing of the
Yeah.
hand, the foot. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big like bicep curls themselves that's a big thing that I thought about a lot when I got into this functional training space was where does a bicep curl fit? But a bicep curl, like you need the biceps, you need the triceps because if you're running, like if you ever did like a full explosion jump with no warm up, the only thing that like in my body, whenever I do that, I feel a crazy burn through my biceps. If I go no warm up and just do a crazy jump, I feel it in my biceps. And that's kind of where that's mostly where I got the idea of like the biceps need to be worked.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just going back to what I was talking about with something like a forward fold stretch, like understanding that when you're viewing the body in continuous lines of tissue instead of like a joint by joint muscle approach, how those movements have an effect in other places of the body. And so I just never got to throw that out there. But like understanding that a forward fold is not just a hamstring stretch, but it's also like low back, upper back, neck, calves,
Rib
feet.
mobility.
Say it again.
Rib mobility.
Rick?
Rib.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
Rib cage mobility because you have to expand more to breathe in that position.
Yeah, and understanding what that's doing to the front chain of your body. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cool stuff. It's cool stuff. So that's why a
And
lot of
like
the
with
a lot of the lines get blurred when it comes to the terms fascia training, functional training. It's really just integrated motion.
yeah, which when you talk about integrating the structure as a whole, that's when you get into like the feet stuff. And that's why the feet stuff is so important because the structure is built on the feet.
Right.
So
That's
having
a big thing that Rolfing talks about. It's a
ex
big thing. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like that's the first step. I always use whenever I explain like why feet training is important to people, I always explain like the classic story of the house that was built on the firm foundation or the house that was built on sand. And it's like the house that's built on the firm foundation is going to stand. And that
Yeah.
firm foundation of the body is your feet.
Yeah, I have a perfect example because here in Miami we had a building that fell a few years ago. It fell because they didn't build the foundation right. So I just every time people talk about why work the feet, I'm able to bring up that building that hurt all of Miami. All of Miami felt that.
How did that go? Are there people living there or no?
Yeah, it happened at like 2 in the morning. Everybody was asleep, and then all of a sudden this building just collapsed on them.
When was that?
2022.
Bro, what?
Yeah, Surfside. It was now because of that building, every single building had their HOA. HOA is the homeowner association, like the fees skyrocketed because every building had to start doing crazy assessments. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Bro,
And
I didn't, I mean, I probably heard about that at the time, but I definitely don't. That's insane.
I mean, here was like the whole city was just
Right,
like for like 3, 4 days, it was like silence.
bro.
But But yeah, man, I mean, like I always talk about that because it's true. Like that building had a poor foundation, and in the middle of the night, there was nothing happening. There was no storm, there was no nothing. It collapsed. And I tell people, your body is like a piece of glass. No matter how strong that glass is, if you hit that right point,
Hmm.
it cracks. And so if you don't have the foundation correct, if you're not fully strong through and through, hit that one little point the wrong way and the whole thing goes. And for a lot of people, it's the feet.
Yeah. Yeah. So some drills for your feet that you could start doing now. We can list a few of those. I know you have some. I'll list
Oh,
some.
yes.
I really like towel scrunches.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
favorite one. 'Cause
and
that's
you
the
can,
easiest one. Anybody could do that. You don't need anything to start it. You just need to put a towel on the floor.
yeah, just put a towel on the floor and use your toes like hands
Yeah.
and start squeezing the towel, and then you can put weights on the other end of the towel.
I mean, a way that I like to do it is I like to fold up the towel a few times, so I'm not even pulling the towel. I'm just staying in the same position and just squeezing over and over.
Mm,
'Cause
that's
that way
interesting.
cause I want to keep the tripod, like I want to keep
Yeah.
the big toe pressure and the small toe pressure, and I'm just going like this. So I'm trying to make sure that this maintains, and it's just a slight lift of the plantar fascia. I'm keeping contact the whole time.
And also when doing these things, the position of the foot is also important because you could build that foundation like crooked, you know what I mean? Or like in a
Very
strange
true.
in a strange position. So when you're doing it, having the feet aligned straight ahead underneath the ankle, underneath the knee, underneath the hip is very important.
And just to be clear, fascia training is very different than biomechanical training because like the stuff that we've been learning with the primal movement, Goda, that's like a biomechanical approach. So they're solely looking like yes, they're working on the fascia and everything because they're doing exercises, but their approach is mainly on angles of the joints, meaning
Yeah.
biomechanics of the movement. So all of these methods have different main objectives, and it goes in the application of what they're delivering. So like that's what I focused on for the longest time for the past 3-4 years was simply the angles of everything and creating rotation throughout the joints. So while that's important, we can't forget about tension. We can't forget about the fascia because that is 22 kilograms of us. You know what I mean? 22 kilograms is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think, being strong is very important as well. Like, don't hear what we're not saying.
I mean, you got to be
You
strong.
gotta
So
be
here's the thing:
strong
is you
too.
can't you can't just do one. You can't
Yeah,
you
like
can't just be working on your feet and then it's like I'm not gonna lift weights
so
because my feet are
th
strong.
this is something I've been saying to explain my position with with Naudi with functional patterns is I agree with everything he says about how to train, but I don't necessarily agree with everything he says about how not to train. You see what I'm saying with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a lot of fear mongering. You get what I mean? Like in order, because in my opinion, like how is it that like you get what I mean? If your body is functioning well, you can do movements. You
Yeah,
can
for
do
sure.
movement.
Like your body will adapt to what you give it. So like your body is very well capable of just say something way outside of the wheelhouse, like of like a just call it a regular like back squat. Like he would that like those functional patterns wouldn't like they would never do that. But like the body is more than well capable of if you decide to do a barbell back squat
And you know what? You know what
and load it up heavy,
you know
you
what
can
the
do it.
reasoning is for not doing back squats? It's because it's a symmetrical movement, and the gait pattern is an asymmetrical movement that involves rotation. Like, dude, a squat is a very natural human motion. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
You don't need to put 500 pounds on there, but granted, like
Yeah, you should be able to.
you should be able to.
100%. I
You're
mean,
gonna call
a
if you're gonna call
squat,
yourself an elite athlete, like they claim a lot of elite athletes need to only do functional patterns. It's like, okay, but how did this athlete get to the point where he was on the field pushing people with his freaking arm out? You get what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
I do really love like what that system does for people who are not like freak athletes, like just regular people, how they can benefit so much from that because they don't need to be like freakishly strong. You know what I mean? Like a healthy strong. But like Yeah, with an athlete, like if an athlete can bench like, 400 pounds versus an athlete who does not bench, like imagine what that's going to feel like when you're getting pushed off the line if you're, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, and I
so
mean
yeah,
that
like, and
cable
that's
stuff is
not
gonna
to
make
say
you
that you have
strong.
to bench. Like that's not to say to be an elite lineman you have to be benching 400, but it's just like a, you know,
Yeah, I mean those cable things are gonna get you strong, but there's only there's a certain cap at horizontal strength.
yeah, for sure.
There's a certain cap because you are extremely limited by balance, by motion, and it's the tensional. How do you say it? Like the tensional, whatever. Like the cable is just it's tension throughout. Like it's not a weight. There's a whole system. Like you have to go along with the cable. So that's very hard to like. You can't do a 120 pound kettlebell. It's not the same as doing 120 pounds on a cable machine. Like there's very like
Yeah.
imagine like having a cable like this, and then you're trying to lift it up with one hand with the bar, trying to lift it up with 120 pounds. You just like simply can't. Simply
That,
can't.
and that's like the argument for like kettlebells versus barbells or dumbbells is like in that little niche.
I mean, I also think that argument is stupid. Personally, I think it's just one of those like it's like the Belfast stuff. It's like everybody just wants to seem better than the next guy. It's like, dude, like the kettlebells aren't better than the barbell. The barbell isn't better than the kettlebell. The kettlebell is better than the dumbbell, but
At certain things, for sure.
at certain things. But
Yeah. I mean, maybe
it's
not
like
for like a flat press. Probably not gonna prefer the kettlebell in that scenario.
yeah. So like well, no, a flat press. What do you mean?
Like laying on a bench and like just bench pressing with dumbbells versus kettlebells.
Oh yeah, you definitely want a dumbbell.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, like it's the same thing. Like the people in our community talk about how they're so open, they're so this, but then they're like bashing on the other type of training. It's like you just destroyed your argument. It's like so I mean,
Oh
yeah, like
God.
I think that argument is stupid, like the barbell versus kettlebell. I think it's just everybody trying to have their 2 cents on something because
Yeah.
they don't have other things to talk about. But
Oh
yeah,
God.
so like the dumbbell itself, the kettlebell,
Hey, or you're just marketing. You know
or
what I
you're just
mean?
marketing.
Or you're
Yeah.
just marketing, which is, bro, which like the people that are really doing this, because, bro, like there's people whose whole page is just like attacking people and they'll be having like 500,000 followers and like a whole, program. So it's
This
like,
whole attack on science thing is or the science-based lifters and the attack on the science-based lifters is so crazy.
yeah, it is crazy.
It's like why are people so hung up? Dude, I
Yeah.
had this guy DMing me. He was 17 years old. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was telling me he's like, that's not even fair. You just have good genetics. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Because he was like, I started remember that guy I was banging on the TNF dude,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was just like completely,
yeah.
completely just blowing up his
Bro,
page.
you had a time with that dude.
Yeah,
Bro,
and
that
so
dude
I
blew
started
up.
having people DM me, and one of these was a 17-year-old kid who was telling me like. He's like, it's not even fair. Like, I'm just trying to take roids and die before I'm 40, low key. Like, I was like, I was like, dude, like that's exactly why I'm on. I said the words. This is exactly why I'm hating on the people that I'm hating on because they
Right.
lead people like you to want to do stupid things like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I guess it's dumb. I was like, no shit, it's dumb.
Yeah, bro. 17 talking about doing steroids is crazy.
Yeah, because he was just talking about I like I know that the way I train takes away my mobility, takes away my athleticism. I was like, okay, I get that maybe you don't want that, but don't you want longevity? Don't you want health? He's like, dude, honestly, I just want to get as big as I can. I've been like truly considering taking steroids. I don't even care if I live after 40. I was like, that's dumb. Don't you want a kid? Don't you want any of that? He's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm too young to think about that. I was like, so don't make a decision when you're too young to where you
Yeah.
can't undo it.
Yeah, bro. It's like, I mean, it's
That's
like that's like a commitment that you could make. Like you could decide to go be a bodybuilder. And that's a decision you have to make. That's a sport that you have to dedicate your life to and accept what comes with it. But that's what it is. It's not a health conscious decision.
So that's why we talk about this training, and that's why we're so into it. It's because, dude, I want to be lifting until I'm 80. I want to be working out till I'm 80, 90 type of shit. Like if I'm worried about risking my life because of the way I look, that to me is such a primitive thought. Like it's truly, it's like Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Like you're a Neanderthal. Like what the hell's going through your head?
uh, Neanderthal is crazy.
Yeah, bro, because it's like ooga booga, big muscle. I go kill myself for big muscle.
Oh God.
And they know they're killing themselves. That's the thing. Like this kid said, I'm just trying to live till I'm 40. Oh, come on. So back to the topic of fascia training versus weight training.
Yeah. Well, there's just a lot of followers. Not fascia trainers. I'm just saying, like, it's a lot of people that are just followers. Like, you just see something on the internet and then you just follow it.
Yeah, I mean a big thing as well. A big thing as well between when it comes to the fascia training and the weight training is what's your goals? Like what's your goals? Because if we're talking about an elite athlete, they're not going to become elite. Well, they are elite. The reason they're elite is because they have structures that regular humans don't have. And a big thing about that people ignore is the fascia. Because if you look at somebody like LeBron James, why in the hell is he 40 years old and able to jump over the hoop? Why is somebody like, why are these 15-year-olds all of a sudden figuring out how to jump super high? We're doing dunks and stuff. And how is Zion Williamson super bouncy, but his body can't keep up? In my opinion, not in my opinion, but based on like what I've been reading, so I'd say based on the research.
Ho 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 ho.
Oh, based on the research, it's a slew of things, but mainly the fascia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's integrated well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. Yeah, I think people get a bad idea of like what fascia training is. Like they just automatically assume because of lack of knowledge that it's like some weak like I don't know, goofy looking form of training where you I don't know, hit the cable machine and like use your toes in a weird way. But like I was saying at the beginning, it's no matter what you're doing, it's fascia training and just understanding that it's a continuum throughout the body that everything is connected. Um, so whatever you're doing, in a way, you're training the fascia, and it's just are you going to be able to integrate it well and create a well balanced system and a well structured system by thinking about the body in terms of the whole instead of a joint or a certain muscle. And then how do you create an exercise that's going to support the function of the body as a whole versus an exercise that's going to support the growth of the bicep.
And I think a big thing that really gets misconstrued is that because when you see fascia training, you only see feet exercises, people attribute it to like weird exercises. You know what
And
I
I wouldn't
mean?
even
Like,
necessarily call that fascia training. Like it is technically because of what I've been saying. Like everything is fascia training, but it's like that. Like the feet specifically is more of like a structure training. You know what I mean?
so
Like a line, like working on the structure and integrating the body.
so go into a little bit like go into a little bit about like what's truly changed in your training because you haven't been posting as much. So the people like let's deep dive into like what's been going on as of late because we haven't done one of these in since March. So let's get a
Yeah,
better.
it's A lot of so most everything I'm doing now is has a typically has a forward intent to it, has a locomotive aspect to the training. First thing do hit the gym, feet. We'll train feet, we'll strengthen feet, and then after that it just depends on, what we're working on that day. But like I said, most things have a forward moving component to it. So we've been using a lot of landmine lever arm, a lot of cable or not cable, but I'll use like bands. I'll attach two bands to the rack and do like forward moving exercise. Even if it's kettlebells, like just that forward intent is something that I've been working on a lot. Um, that's something I've been really, really working on with everybody is like a forward moving exercise.
And how do you feel?
Good. Everybody feels good. Yeah. A lot of pain is gone from certain individuals. A lot of mobility is being gained from a lot of individuals. I feel good.
How's
I've
your
gotten myself out of knee pain
okay?
and out of back pain and and I had bad knee and back pain. And uh through a lot of this type of work and a lot of I guess you could call it mobility training, we've gotten ourselves out of pain.
So talk a little bit about the knee and back pain. Like how long did it take for you to truly start feeling differences?
Getting out of knee pain didn't take me very long. Getting out of knee pain didn't take me very long. I would say just sitting in the resting postures really did that.
Talk about that. Talk about that real quick because I don't think a lot of people know what resting postures mean.
So like right now I'm sitting on the ground and like I don't think there's necessarily specific ground resting postures that you have to follow. I think there are some good ones. Um so like for example the Seiza sit, which is just sitting with your feet flat. You could look up Seiza stance and it's just sitting on your ankles essentially. So like just relaxed feet. You could also do that while you're on the toes, and that's a good stance as well. Sitting crisscross on the ground, um, sitting one leg in like a seiza and one leg up, like with the knee like this. So just sitting on the ground, I think helped me a lot. Doing a lot of the back chain work got me out of knee pain. So like doing a lot of hip, glute, hamstring strengthening exercises, which that kind of goes with the forward moving exercise. If you're keeping that crown forward, hips back, you're probably working the back chain, hopefully. Um,
Why would something like a kettlebell thruster, why would a squat and a press not be optimal for what you're trying to do?
well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but it would just depend. It would just depend on the way you're going about doing that move. The way you're going about doing that move. I can't say that I've been particularly doing any kettlebell thrusters, but
So I mean the reason I say it is
you
because
you want to yeah talk about the
thruster a thruster is a very popular move that people just put in to just get the workout done because it's a squat and a press. But what happens
yeah
during a kettlebell thruster? You have weight resting behind you, and you end up sending those hips in front of you and your head a little bit back in order to stabilize. So that defeats the whole purpose of the forward intent. So if Brett decided to do a kettlebell thruster, he's doing a disservice to his goal. And that's why when I talk about weight training, fascia training, and all that,
and
it really depends on your goal. The moves you do if they directly correlate to what you're trying to achieve, you're in the right direction. But if you're just working out to work out, that's where
yeah,
it becomes
and I think to build on that is if you are someone who's working out, just like let's say I'm working with a client who is just general health, I agree 100% that the training should be focused around the gait pattern.
100%. And there's so many ways to do it. Because gait
So
training
like going back to the thruster, me keeping my feet squared away and going directly up and straight down is not making that pattern better, especially if my knees are coming inside dramatically. My ankles are collapsed. Like I'm actually training bad gait pattern.
Now, if we make it into a kick stance and when you go down, you rotate and you
Right.
send this elbow into the other knee, then when you come up, you rotate up. There we go.
Right.
There, that's gait training.
All right. Now the opposite hip and shoulder are making a connection, which is what happens in the gait cycle. And then also say if I wanted to do something similar to a thruster, I could do something like a step clean step press.
Right.
I could do something like a step clean step press. Now I'm on my toes. Now I'm moving forward. Now I'm getting that hip to shoulder opposites. And
Like doing a landmine press because you're moving forward. Your hips are always going to be behind you when you're doing landmine.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could just ask yourself like is the powerlifting split that I'm following or the bodybuilding split that I'm following like do I feel better? It's like most people like have like a shoulder or a knee or like an ankle or something that they're like, "Oh, like this kind of hurts or it's kind of getting in my way." And it's like, "Well, your training could number 1 fix that or number 2 have prevented it in the first place."
And the thing is, the thing that I truly, it truly baffles me is how pain has just become a normal part of working out. Like you're supposed to be in pain because you're working out. That to me seems unacceptable
Yeah, that's definitely not how it should be.
because there is ways to go about weightlifting without pain. There is ways.
Well, it's like
And
doing things we just said.
yeah, but I mean, even the people that are just doing like Olympic weightlifting, some of them, I mean, I don't know a lot of them, but some of them truly are living pain free. And then they are performing, they're doing a lot of freaking weight and they're performing really well. So it's like how is it that somebody like that is doing really well? And I mean, it all goes into the accessory work. It all goes into
Yeah.
they're implementing myofascial release, which I think is a very underrated tool.
Yeah, that's what really helped me with back pain is because like people will hate on flexibility or stretching, but if you look at it from a fascial standpoint, lengthening the tissue, if you've caused so much like I have, so much pull and tension and stress from lifting without and then you've neglected the stretch aspect, well, that's not very good. And so doing like just a simple forward fold has tremendously helped me with back pain. Just a simple toe touch has helped me tremendously because
Yeah.
of so much wound up tension from like all the, crazy weightlifting that I would do.
So I like to call that compression to decompression.
Yeah.
I like to call that that. It's something that like when I tore my rotator cuff, I just I went about my training in a way that was gonna fix me. I decided I like there was no messing around here. Let's get focused. Let's get better. So I came up with this thing, compression to decompression. Each compression had to be followed by a decompression. And sometimes stretching isn't exactly the key because I don't think stretching is the most effective method of getting out of pain. But what is stretching? Stretching is lifting. So that means getting yourself in a good range of motion post a really compressive lift. So like if I'm going to be on a Bosu ball and I'm going to squeeze the ball with my feet really hard, that's a compression exercise where I'm teaching my body full body compression. I'm going to get off of that and I'm going to do a Cossack squat. So there I'm opening up the adductors and I'm opening up the hips, but I'm strengthening it at the same time. Therefore, compression to decompression. And so that's just one example, but then there's a whole slew of them like shoulder press, and then a crossbody lat pull. Like easy. It's just like take the lines that you're working of the fascia. That's why fascia training is important. Because if you
Right.
understand these lines, then you understand moves to do and undo.
Yeah, that's what I was
And
about to say too with the forward fold is like if that tissue is wound up like I was describing and is creating a lot of pull and a lot of tension by loosening that, that could have an impact on your knee pain or on your shoulder or on pain elsewhere in the body because it is that connected line of tissue.
100%. I mean, this is a cool thing. Have
And
you
that's where
ever?
the term like tensegrity becomes an important thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like this is
exactly.
this is a really cool thing too, because I've like there's times where you release one part of your body and then pain comes out on a different part. And then you realize that it's like the little points of pain are is where your body's telling you that it's holding the most.
Yeah, bro, it's fascinating the body. There's so much to be learned.
And that's why Brett is reading a book right now that personally I want. It's called The Anatomy Trains. And it talks a lot about this stuff. It points out, put it to your chest. There you go.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
It's a banger right there. You know what else is a banger? This book is a banger.
Yeah, I
Energy
gotta start.
Medicine and Therapeutics and Human Performance. Fascinating.
I have it, but I haven't started it yet. I think I think that one and this one are very correlated. Spinal Engine, that's a classic. What's that one? Oh, the governing law of coaching dynamics, human locomotion. That's the other one by James Smith. Okay. Oh, MMA conditioning, strength and development for all sports. Acupuncture, the what is it? The Bible of acupuncture? Book of methods. Yeah.
Banger. Gotta have that one.
We have a lot of the same books. We just have slight differences, slight ones that you have that I don't, and
Yeah.
slight ones that I have that you don't. Like this one. This one I think is I haven't read the energy medicine one yet.
It's right
Um
up your alley, bro.
I
Right up
need
your alley.
I need to get into that one.
Right
But
up your alley.
this one I'm pretty sure this one it's called human movement potential. It's ideokinetic facilitation. I think this one has a lot to do with that energy ones because this one talks a lot about this is a concept in the book. So ideokinetics is your ability to see motion and how it affects your body. So like visualizing if you're
Mm.
if you're a swimmer and you spend a lot of time visualizing your race, your
Yeah.
body builds a certain kind of like muscle memory to it.
It talks about that, yeah, in the energy medicine. It's not really all about that, but it does mention that and how there is a measurable effect of I don't remember if it was like that the tissue actually changes or if it was I believe that the tissue actually has a change. Is that right?
Yeah.
Where you visualize?
I read that. I didn't read that in either of these books, but I read that in a Joe Dispenza book.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, shit. Like, if you think about it, this is it's crazy how all this also connects to the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neuro training, essentially. Like, if you can really visualize workouts, like
Yeah,
say,
but is it a nervous system wiring or is it a fascial connective tissue wiring when you're doing that visualization? Because from what I remember, it was an actual tissue rewiring. Because what it talks about in this book, something that and it's funny. Like I keep thinking of this exercise whenever or this time whenever I explain this to people. In the book, it talks about how there's essentially doesn't say it directly, but essentially there's two nervous systems. One being the actual nervous system, and the other being the fascia. And how like the example they give is like how like the cat when startled will spring up so fast like there's no way that the cat could have processed okay there's a threat that brain sends the current to my muscle contracts now I'm in the air it's like no it's something else that realized that and then reacted and then the brain started to process and so what it attributes that to is the fascia and what I like to tell the story is when we were in Denver the Domino's dude tried to hit a lick on us and I popped
okay,
up.
so
I had no
so
idea.
let's clarify what happened. Let's clarify what happened. We were walking through a very sketchy part of Denver. It was very sketchy, and this Domino's pizza guy was just going to his car delivering the pizza, and Brett squared up on him. Completely jumped, got in a square, and this dude was frightened. This dude was so scared. He was just trying to deliver some pizza and Brett almost killed him. The way you turned around so fast.
Oh, because it was
I looked
quiet, and
back.
then all I
I
heard
looked
was boom,
back
boom,
as
boom,
well.
boom.
I looked back and you jumped. You literally jumped in this position.
Bro.
No, it was too funny. It was too funny. But wait a second. Let's talk about that sketchy area though, because all of us had a crazy vibe. Like the three of us were walking, and none of us had a good vibe there.
Bro, it went from being so nice to being like so strange and sketchy. Like we were in the most beautiful like part of that, the Denver Capitol Park. And then like beautiful Capitol buildings, beautiful park. And then like as soon as you leave, it becomes like Halloween Street, like straight up like ghost light
Every
up
single house
images in
had their
front of
red
this
lights.
red lights, shady lights, like bro,
A
like
lot of
picket
death.
fence, fake fence, like bro, talk about the fences.
Oh, and a lot of death, bro. There was a lot of
Yeah.
skulls everywhere. Like a lot of it was like weird, like a death.
It was like
What do you
everyone was
call
on it, bro. Everybody
it?
was
Like a
on that.
death fetish. A
Yeah.
death fetish, bro.
Strange. Yeah,
And
bro.
then
I
you
said
decided to ask the guy who lives there, "What's up with this place?" When you asked that, I was like, bro, I had to walk to the other side of the store and just start laughing.
yeah, he tried to play it off. He's like, "What you mean?" I was like, "Hey, maybe it's just me."
I was like, this place, you're like, this place is very weird. And he's like, no, it's not.
uh, yeah,
Oh
bro.
man, but that's hilarious though.
I said, what did I
Yeah.
say to that Domino's dude? I said, after I found out I was a Domino's dude, I was like, what did I say? I was like, how's it going? And he was like, yep. You remember what he said? He was like,
He
yeah.
just said yup, and the guy was very startled.
Oh
He was just
God.
as startled as we were.
Yeah, bro. Because like, okay, well, and also like you gotta remember it was late at night and like we were walking, like there wasn't much sound going on. And then out of nowhere, all I hear is doom, 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 doom. Like
And
pizza guy running out of Domino's trying to.
both of us did a turn, but you really did a turn.
Yeah, no, I was. It's my fascia. That's the point that we were trying to make right there. Is because there was no way my brain had any idea what was happening. You know what I mean? I just reacted and then processed what was actually going on.
And you know what? Here's a quick little tidbit. Could it be? Could it be that because the fascia is the most sensory organ in the body, that it feels certain vibrations before our
It's
brain can
energies.
process?
Yeah, that's the whole concept.
And
Is
then
it's
because we're
energy.
wearing barefoot shoes, we're also very, very sensorially aware, whatever you want to call that word.
Yeah. No, I get. Yeah.
Sensorially aware. I'm gonna quote that, or I'm gonna coin that. But yeah, like think about it. Both like we're both wearing barefoot shoes. We're both like we both reacted even without knowing. And so it's something that like I don't think the body, like the brain could not have processed, like you can't see behind you. So there's no
Yeah.
possible way of you knowing something's behind you.
Yeah. It's an energy. It's an energy field. It's an energy field, but also yeah, and also like that patterning, like that patterning, like a lot. You know how many times I've been in that position before, like a lot of times. Um, so yeah, my body was just ready.
Yeah, so that's some cool stuff. I
And
mean,
you know what else is something that we've been working on too, like kind of going along with this, or something I've been we were I think I mean I think you as well, is like again going back to Denver when we were just like walking and then just busting out in a full sprint because like we felt good. Like we didn't hit a 10-minute warm up. You know what I mean? You just bust it out full sprint straight away.
I will say you're a little bit more ready to go than I am. I've been dealing with some injuries as of late. So like that's it's getting there. It's getting there a lot better for me. Like
I mean,
when
you
I
were
was in
right there.
Denver, I didn't touch any weights that day and I did the 56 kg. I grabbed the bell and I grabbed it pretty easily. It felt light. felt light. I did a few swings. I did a squats. Did some squats with it. Cleaned it. It was. I mean, again, like that just goes back to like the training that I've been doing over the past few years. Like it really just it allows me to be twitchy with no
Yeah.
warm up. And
Yeah.
like the jumping also. Neither one of us had a warm up, so we were doing
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You were
max
right there,
effort,
like, doing
max
all that
effort
stuff.
vert jumps.
Yeah. Jumps, like, shoot, we busted out. I was busting out hitting some little side to side footwork
Oh
drills over the
yeah, yeah.
cone.
I didn't go with that. I
You didn't
couldn't
engage
breathe
in
up
those.
there.
That was at the end though. That was at the end.
Yeah, I mean that's a cool thing though. Like realistically, because like, you get into the gym and you have to stretch, you have to do all this, you have to do all that, but I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? I'm ready to go. Like the stretching, I warm up. I warm up because it's a smart thing to do, especially if you're
Yeah,
gonna
for
get
sure.
into some high intensity stuff. Like I warm up my feet, but I don't spend 20,
Right.
30 minutes doing mobility.
Yeah, well, it's like I just said too. Like when we was talking about how I've changed my training. Like first thing we do, warm up, hit the gym. We're hitting feet. We're warming up feet, working from the. That's another strategy I've been doing is like ground up approach to the warm up. Um, so starting from the feet and then working up the body. But uh, but yeah, bro, you just look back in time, like our body needed to be capable. Like if you had to sprint for your life, like there was no warm up process, or if like your one chance to like slay tonight's dinner ran by, or however, I don't know. I never lived in that time, but you know what I mean. I'd imagine you'd have to pick right up and sprint and throw the spear or whatever. So yeah, bro, like, and I imagine they had to pattern that. They had to do it a couple times to
You
where
know
that
who's
became
something
natural.
you should start watching? I don't know, like, cause I know I've talked to you a little bit about him, but Joel Seedman. So I'm getting a little bit more turned on to the idea of the eccentric isometrics, even though I disagree with the way he describes it.
Yeah,
So
I follow him, but his stuff doesn't ever pop up in my feed. I need to start engaging more with
you
it.
have to
So
watch his long form stuff because that's where the ideas come out. His short form stuff is stunts.
he has like a YouTube.
Yeah, he has a
Oh,
YouTube and he has a
perfect.
podcast as well.
Okay, cool.
And he
Yeah.
has a book, but he has a few books actually. He has a lot of books, which that guy is good at making money.
Bro, the one Joel Seaman versus 100 exercise science papers is
Yeah.
hilarious.
I like that. I like that meme. That was a great one. But
Bro,
I
but
think
it's like listen, bro, like the peer review exercise science is only as good as the next peer review exercise science to come out. And anybody can fund a study based off of what they want to prove. Like somebody sent me a study, I think I was telling you about this. But somebody sent me a study and it was like about Olympic weightlifting, how it contributes to power and Muay Thai kicking or Muay Thai striking or whatever. And I was like, yeah, like I could perform that same study and say kettlebell swings did it, or say push up, like whatever you want. I can form a study around that. It's just who's the individuals in the study, and I don't know, bro. You can fund any study that you want and get the results.
I mean the thing too is like that stuff is gonna make you strong. It's not that it's not. I mean that's the thing that a lot of people miss is that Olympic weightlifting is gonna make you strong. Kettlebells are gonna make you strong. Bodybuilding will make you strong.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is your ultimate goal? Like, are you are you trying to be strong at lifts? Are you trying to be strong at life? Because in life, in a fight, you don't have that luxury of having a weight in your hand, cueing the body to tell you, boom, pressure. You have to generate that pressure from somewhere. And usually that comes from your force into the ground, your ability to maintain contact into the ground, push into the floor, and use the entire body to swing and make that punch go forward.
Yeah, I always say a cue I like to use is because a lot of people like this is like for just striking training, but like people will lift their feet, like say they throw like a right hand and their right foot will pop up. And be like, well, your source of power is your connection to the ground. And so that's the saying I'll use. Your source of power is your connection to the ground. So you're absolutely right.
And
And
I was
that's where
having,
training feet could be so important. What did
yeah,
you say?
I was having that same conversation yesterday with my brother. He was playing golf and he was showing me the videos of him going. So he's swinging. He's had his right foot in front, and as soon as he would lift, as soon as he would hit, he would lift his right foot. And so it's like that's the foot that stays planted, and then the left is the one that's rotating in order to create that torque and that rotation. But it's it's simple things like that. It's simple things like that where it's like maintaining that connection to the floor is realistically where the power comes from because then you're going to use that's where injuries get created because you use too much of one part rather than using the whole.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that is where sports become like a danger, I guess you could say. But just understanding that like with sports like at a high level, I mean injuries are probably likely.
I mean anything at a high level, like even weightlifting.
Exactly.
Like
Anything
even
and
the type of lifting we were doing, like I like let's take it back. Like what where did I get a lat tear from or a thoracolumbar fascia tear if you want to be more specific? Where the hell did you, where how do you get that? Go
right.
really fucking hard in the weight room, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
100%. Well, that's why I was in back pain because that tissue is so wound up. That same tissue.
and I
That
think
same tissue.
for me, the main problem was I was doing all these mobility stunts all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's where I went wrong. Like doing splits and holding weights over my head. Mind you, I would come into the gym cold and do them.
Yeah. Yeah, our ancestors probably didn't do that very often.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you anything they were
That's
not
probably
like
not very energy efficient as the
not
books
it's not Goda. It's
like to
not
talk
Goda.
about.
A split with weights over your head is not Goda.
No, no, I'd imagine that doesn't fit the qualifications.
But
You
again,
could take it up with Naudi.
like we all learn through our mistakes. Like extremes end up forcing you to become more disciplined. And that's kind of where we're at now. Like both of us just our goals, like especially mine with the social media. I mean, yeah, it's to entertain, yeah, it's to have a good time, yeah, it's to talk shit. But at the same time, it's mostly to educate. It's mostly not even to educate, but tell my story and why I'm doing what I'm doing and how maybe it could help you.
Yep.
'Cause I mean, that's what I like when you came to Miami and like the first thing I was telling you was your feet. You're like, what? You're like my feet.
I was bugging out, dog. I talking about my walk.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so
Like
crazy, bro, because like it's so crazy because before we went to that conference before we went to the Uberzadi conference, all of the books that I was reading was just strictly about sports performance. And what's crazy is none of those sports performance books, like none of those exercise study or exercise science peer review like type stuff, none of them talk about feet or fascia. Like they'll mention fascia, but they won't talk about like integrating the structure or training feet or like how your feet should be positioned in alignment with your knees. Like are the knee and the foot pointing the same way? Like none of them talk about that. So it's kind of crazy that no one would like how are they not teaching that stuff is what I'm saying. You know? Crazy.
and that's to me, like that to me, it makes the science incomplete
100%.
because like you can't ignore a simple fact. Forget about theory. Fact. The most sensory nerves exist in the toes, the
I was just
fingers,
talking to somebody
and the
about this, bro.
toes.
I was just talking about this. I was just talking about how like these big thick shoes like are not necessarily like people have this idea that like more cushion the better for your feet. It's like, no, bro. That's just not how it works. Like you have no idea of what your feet are even doing in those things. But if you could get like a, you know, like a barefoot shoe, you actually can move your feet the way they're meant to be moved. Like like this joint of your foot is actually able to move and
Right.
this joint is actually able to move.
I
Like
mean,
your
think about
feet are
how
the
the shoe
same way.
shoes shaped like this. So, like, how are your toes gonna press down into a structure that's lifted?
Yeah, that's exactly. It's not gonna work.
And I mean, look, like I'm not the biggest fan of shoes in general, even the barefoot shoes. Like I don't think they're optimal for training. Like if you're gonna be training and you're really gonna be training and you're at a gym that allows it, take those shoes off, take those socks off.
100%.
Like,
Yep. And I'm true. I'm lucky that I've always like ever since I got out of school, or I guess you could say ever since I started training martial arts, it's barefoot like martial arts gyms like no shoes on the mat. And
right.
so like although I may have never really necessarily thought about like aligning my feet for the longest time, uh my feet were always strong.
And that's something that you see, like that's why you adapted so quick to the training because you're already very strong. And so it's like the feet themselves didn't have to do that much work, and you're already wearing the barefoot shoes. You're already barefoot. You know what I mean? It's not like you
Yeah.
had a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, 100%. But then now in these past like few months, bro, it's definitely makes a big difference. And you can feel it, bro. You just feel better. You feel longer. You know what I mean? That's what like what's it called? Rolfing talks about is like creating that length and aligning the blocks.
Aligning the blocks.
Aligning the blocks for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Like the pelvis in
Ideally your
rolfing, they
posture
talk
should
about
ideally your posture should settle into this block component as you can see here versus this where people will be out of alignment. The block should stand straight.
so
So
I'm
you
gonna
could think like there's like a just based off of this small picture here, you could imagine rope from like here pulling lifting you up. And I'm not saying you gotta like be like this, but just creating that length. And that's what the resting postures do very well is creating that length as you're seated.
so one thing that I really liked about the rolfing book is I was just reading this chapter. I've been flipping through it. I haven't been reading it back to front because I realize that textbooks are not easy to read back to front.
Back to front.
It's very hard to read
Back to
a textbook.
you didn't catch that, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I
Back to
know.
front.
I realize what I said after. Sometimes I like to start the last chapter before I go to the first.
Oh, really?
I've actually done that in one book because I wanted to know if it was worth reading, so I read the last chapter.
Yeah.
But I will say the anal sphincter, that's cool. It's talking about the function of the anal sphincter.
I was just reading that part, bro, but that was kind of crazy just to bust out with. Nobody else watching this right now has any idea what you're talking about, most likely. And you just bust out with lining the anal sphincter. That's cool.
It's funny.
That's gonna be a good clip for our Instagram right there.
The anal sphincter.
Align the anal sphincter. That's cool.
If you're look, your posture isn't aligned if you don't have your anal sphincter in
Bro,
place.
if you're not consciously thinking about the sphincter, then you're not. There's no way you're taking your training seriously.
Your posture probably sucks.
Yeah, 100%. If you're not doing anal sunning 3 times a week, there's no way you could be moving with efficient biomechanics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not doing your Kegels properly. It's game over for you.
Yeah, yeah, there's no way.
Pelvic floor training. Well, besides that,
Yep.
besides that, I mean, both of us really, I mean, we're focused on the way we walk now, and just that one little thing has been making a big difference to both of us. Like you talked about it, the springiness you feel just like from the get go.
Yeah, well, and that's something that you should feel. That's something that you should feel like when you're walking with efficient technique, you could say, the foot should feel springy. It should feel springy. Um, and it just won't feel like that if you're walking with a strange gait pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
should feel
if you're not
springy.
aligning, if you're not putting that pressure, because a big problem that most people have and that you had before is that your body was meeting your leg. Like you were catching with your leg and then your body was following. So like let's say let's say this is the body and this is your leg. You were hitting with the leg and then your body was following. But now your body and your leg are meeting at the same time. So that
Yeah.
pressure, that downward pressure is being met with your arm and your upper body, and then it's absorbing through the glute in order to push you into the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's like a good test that you could do to see if you're walking better. Is just feel like, and I've showed a lot of people this, like every step that you take when you're walking, just feel like you could either A, like just take off and start running, or like you could jump. You know what I mean? Just feel like you have that springiness. Like every step feels springy. And something you could do with that is like there's not necessarily I don't think that there's anything wrong with walking heel to toe. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Personally, I don't do it because I wear barefoot shoes. Like I just don't do it because I just I try to hit the foot. I try to hit flat.
That's how I land too. That's what I try to do too. But like with that being said, like that's how I try to land too. Or I'll roll from like the foot pad here on the outer edge of the foot, and then I'll kind of roll like that. But
I tried to get away from that because my ankles were starting to like hang out like this.
well, it's weird too because if you land too far on the side, you're gonna be landing bone. So it's
Right.
like trying to land on the softer, like essentially just like you said, landing with a flat
It's
foot. But
right here, really. Like
if you
I'll
land,
put it out. It's
yeah.
right
So
here.
if you look at his foot, if you look at where the padding is, there's padding from all of the. Yeah, I love what you're doing right there. That's how you want to land.
So
If you,
if you notice real quick, like when I do that, you see the toes flex in.
yeah,
That's because that's a reflex. It's like a
yeah,
reflex. It's a reflex point. Right there is where the foot is supposed to hit. So that means that the toes are going to automatically grip. I'm not having to consciously grip the toes. If I hit at the right spot, the toes will grip automatically.
yeah. And another way to think about that is just don't land on like hard bone.
If you land on your knuckles, if you walked on your knuckles on your hands, it would hurt.
Yeah, exactly. And also if you want to, go back and look at Andrew's feet, you would be able to see that there is a padding on the foot, and like that's kind of a parameter of how you should walk. Like I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with walking heel to toe. Like I feel like at least in the books it talks about how evolutionarily that was more energy efficient, right? It's a little less costly to do that efficient energy wise.
But they were also walking on grass. They weren't and dirt. They weren't
That's
walking on concrete.
that's true too. But the point is staying on this heel to outer edge to balls of the feet. Like there's built-in padding on your foot versus like this inside edge, where a lot of people who walk duck-footed will be putting a lot of pressure on. So trying to avoid that, trying to turn the feet straight and get this outer edge ball of the foot uh,
And so
type
even someone
sensation.
Like LeBron, he walks completely like duck footed. But if you look at the way his ankles are pointing, and
Mm,
you look at his feet in general, he has a high arch, so he's not even he's not collapsing his arch at all. His arch is up, and he's moving in an efficient way. He's just his foot is just out.
yeah, which there's always going to be people that are what's it called, exceptions to the rule, right?
Outliers, yeah. I mean, that's
And I
something
think
that
like for anyone watching, just like think about pointing your feet straight. Like it's really not. It doesn't have to be all that difficult, you
right.
know. Just point your feet straight. Like if just
Mostly
look at the way you're walking, bro. Majority of people have no thought about it, and they are like super duck footed. And for most people, that is going to turn the angle of the ankle and the angle of the knee and even the angle of the hip to where it's not ideal.
So I think even more so than the foot itself, the ankle. Like
Yeah,
because in the end of the day, even if you're pointing the feet right, you can have that ankle collapse and it just messes up the whole thing. So A big
Yeah.
thing that I try to like iterate to people. Just imagine you have a little string on the inner ankle bone and you're pulling it up.
Yeah.
You're pulling it up. And that's not a hard motion to do. It's not something that you really need to be connected to your body to do. It's just a simple little act of lifting. And that way you're distributing pressure amongst your whole body.
Same thing with your back from right here,
Yeah. Yeah.
lifting you up.
Never mind,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get in the posture.
I know, bro.
Yeah.
uh,
I've been sitting on the floor this whole time, and the cool thing that I like about floor sitting is one, you can't stay in the same position for a long time. Like you
right.
can't you can't just sit on your feet for a whole 2 hours. It makes you like one of the things that Bam talked about. So quick little recap: when we went to Uberzadi in Melbourne, we talked to the Primal Movement people, and they were just like throw away your chairs. You can't have a chair if you want to live long, and it's like okay, that's not real life, but um, one of the things they talked about is the importance of floor sitting. The importance of floor sitting is that your body has to constantly adapt and has to constantly shift, meaning you're not sedentary even if you're sedentary.
Yeah, I've been moving positions. I'm on the ground too, so yeah, I've been moving around, sticking one leg out, sticking the other out, and yeah, bro. Like I think even just sitting on the ground, and of course they have like their resting postures, but just like sit on the ground, and your body will probably find those resting postures anyways.
Yeah, it just finds where it's comfortable. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's a common thing for people with back pain to want to lie down on the floor. Like you
Yeah,
got
yeah. Think about why that is. I mean, that's a sign.
yeah, I mean, there's all these people who are like, my back was hurting so bad last night that I just slept on the floor. It's like, did you feel better when you slept on the floor? Yeah. Oh, oh, oh.
Should probably go back to the bed then. I go hit some power clean and jerks after that as well.
Man, you know what's simple? You know what's simple and not enough people want to do?
What?
Just trying it out.
Just trying it out.
Just trying it out. There's
Nah,
so many
bro.
ways to tip on everything.
What is significantly more effective than trying it out is just making fun of it.
As if, bro. All these, you know what? I saw this page today. The guy has a lot of good tips. But then he goes, the myth of fascia training. And
Bro, I
like,
got one. The myth was there more?
no, I was just talking about the myth of fascia training. Like it's
Bro,
like,
my
like they talk
favorite,
about.
there's this guy on Instagram and he's like he does like these memes and he's like a traditional S&C guy. And he's like what does he say? He's like never ask a woman how much she weighs, never ask this, and never ask a fascia guy how to isolate the fascia. Like, bro, just that statement alone is so like idiotic.
But you can't.
You can't isolate anything, and no matter what you're doing, you're like, bro, it just an idiotic statement right there.
Yeah, I mean the guy also he
Like,
did
tell me
this.
how to do your power cleans without also training the fascia.
I mean it's
Are you
just
isolating anything in the power cleans? Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
it's also here's actually the main thing that I think is probably why fascia isn't a number one like focal point in curriculums is where do all these studies come from? Cadavers. And the fascia
Yeah,
is a
where they
living
cut straight
thing.
through the fascia.
Right. Right. Like the fascia is a living thing and it's the properties of fascia completely change when someone's dead.
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily speak to that, but I know that in anatomy trains, there's many pictures of, matter of fact, and I can show you guys on the podcast, but there's many pictures of real cadavers fascia trains, lines, where you can see that there is a continuous line of tissue, unbroken, and playing a role in your body.
But
So let's
another big thing, the
find an
reason why
image.
why this is significant is if the fascia is the most what is it, sensory rich organ in the body, being able to touch it while it's live and see the reactions in different areas kind of proves the point, you know?
So this, that is a, oh, come on. I don't know. Can you see that, Andrew?
I'm trying to see it.
So like, let's do one image at a time here.
Yeah, just put it to your chest.
So this image here is the back line. So this would be the toes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This would be the toes, and this would be the crown of the head right here. And that's going like this. This is the
Okay.
back line.
The
But
crown will be
down
here.
the left, let's just see what it says here. We have, yeah, so cranial fascia, erector spinae, sacrotuberous ligament. So you can see it's making its way from head back. So now we're at the hips here, this little juncture. Sacrotuberous ligament, sciatic nerve right here, included in that. Sciatic nerve, hamstrings right here, hamstrings, and then short head of the biceps femoris, and then the plantar fascia here. And so this is what it looks like on the cadaver. And you can see that it's a continuous, unbroken line of tissue that wraps around the head here.
Pretty cool.
So that's a real cadaver in fascia.
But yeah, I mean, but a big thing that I think
But
gets missed,
it's the plantar fascia.
that's cool, is imagine if we could touch the fascia and imagine seeing a live person and being able to see the different reactions throughout the fascia. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know how in acupuncture they talk about release this point and it'll release right here in your chest and it'll release your lower back.
Yep.
Being able to see that live. So it's like you push that point
Hmm.
right here and then you see a change in the fascia in the back.
That would be insane.
Yeah, so that's a big reason why fascia isn't a focal point in studies is because you simply they do these studies on dead people.
Well, and it's like in most of the books, in most of like the fascia books that you read, they often talk about like they'll mention briefly how like surgeons will just cut past the tissue and pay it no mind. And it's like, I mean, they don't necessarily have to because I guess they're replacing the hip. That's their job is to replace the hip or whatever. But they just kind of like bypass the tissue. Not that the surgeon is going to have anything to do with it, but the point is that it's like a neglected part of the body that people don't study or think about.
That's a hot topic right there. How could hip replacement surgeries end up being better by like cutting along the fascia lines and being able to reconnect it?
I think it would depend on what the hip surgery is for.
No, but I mean just in terms of like when things go back together, that fascia has to regrow back to it.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. Well, they know that it can repair itself.
Right, but it doesn't it's not a
Well,
fast
and
period because of its viscosity.
yeah, well, and that would be where it becomes important, like what we were talking about, like physical therapy. And it's like the things that they're doing are not necessarily going to help that individual recover in the way that that individual needs to recover.
Yeah, because in terms of the viscositousness of the fascia, it's gonna take a long time for it to like reconnect to itself.
Yeah, and just the movements that you're patterning.
And if you're slicing through it without thinking about the lines and without going along a specific pattern, it becomes that much harder for it to regrow. I mean, that's theory. That's theory. Neither one of us are neither one of us are doctors, so we don't know. But it's just a theory that makes sense. It's a theory that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder how deep like stitches go. Like if it's actually stitching all of the tissue. Probably not. Probably just this like the most superficial layers of the tissue. You
Damn,
know what I'm talking about?
this got me on a little rabbit hole. I'm in my
Dude, what
head.
were
I've
we
been
talking about
thinking.
the other night? We were talking about how oh bro, we were talking about like an injury. We were talking about something similar to this, and we were trying to visualize like what the tissue is actually doing. You remember that? And I was like, what is it? Just like and then like there's some like I forgot what we were talking about. I don't know if you remember.
Thing we're talking about. So I've been training kids recently, and one of the kids that I'm training has a deep ankle injury, back injury, and shoulder injury. And then we were just talking about like him and I were just going back and forth on different methods of healing up injuries and how to go about it. Um, and that's really that's when we both got the Spinal Engine book. Actually, we both ordered it that that night.
Yeah.
We both ordered it that night because we were just talking. We were talking about the tissue that surrounds the spine and how most I don't actually don't remember what we were talking.
No, because this was the conversation I was talking about was after we were talking about rehabbing that kid,
Okay.
and it was whenever I was about to go to Publix.
Oh, so this is when you were in the car reading. You were reading anatomy trains.
Yeah, and I was talking about how the body heals itself, but I just don't remember. Anyways, it was just like a funny thing where I was trying to visualize like what that healing process looks like.
Yeah, what's cool?
Like, could you imagine if you could like see that? Like, if you could watch like a time lapse of like the tissue like healing like a wound, that would
Ins
be fascinating.
insane. Personally, I would love to see that. I would love to see. I would also love to see a muscle growing, a time lapse of what a muscle looks like as it's growing.
You know what else is fascinating that I was just reading is how like growing up like certain things will be bones and that bone just turns into a ligament.
Oh, where'd you read that?
Yeah, I read that in I don't know. I don't know where I read that at. But it was I think it was talking about I think it was talking about specifically in the I don't remember if it was lower lumbar, if it was somewhere in the hips. But yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean,
So like
that makes sense.
yeah, the body will do what it needs to do. You know what else is crazy is how anatomy is a rough estimate. That's what's really crazy. Like all these textbooks and whatnot that have the same images, like that doesn't mean that that's what the person is working with in their body. Like everybody has little differences. What is the word? They always use this word in the books and I don't know how to say it. I'm gonna look it up.
Deviations,
What's that?
deviations,
Aberrations.
aberrations.
A
So,
departure from what is normal, usual, or expected, typically one that is unwelcome.
and that's also why I've been like straying away as much from the angular training, like the biomechanically perfect training, is because sometimes you got to feel where the body wants to be.
Yeah. Well, and I was telling you that about I was saying that a while ago. Do you remember me talking about that? Like, what is perfect?
Right.
Like I what is perfect? How do you know what that how can you say that this is how you should move, especially when it comes to like saying that this system is for athletes, but all those athletes have to move in different ways.
And so like I really didn't start questioning it that much until we took the GOTA certification.
Mm. Why? Because they're so strict?
Yeah, because they're so certain.
Oh yeah, they are very certain, aren't they?
They're so certain, and to me, it just you start seeing guys like Banana the Tailpipe.
Bro, I haven't seen him in a
I
while.
just don't know his new username. He switches it every couple months, and
I'm
then
gonna
you
have to
can't
scroll
find
through my followers.
I don't think I think he deactivated his account because I can't find him.
Yeah, true.
And usually lives come up in the front, and there's been no lives. But a big thing is that I was seeing him, and he talks. he was just showing elite athletes whose foot was turned out, and then I was like, yeah, that's so true. LeBron's foot is completely turned out, but he Banana was never showing LeBron. He was just showing all these track athletes.
You know what I would like to know is I'd like to talk to somebody who has the counter argument for energy system development. Because I've heard people say,
You have a can you have an argument against it?
but that's my theory, is because people will. They'll be like, oh, like remember Banana? He was like, oh, I don't do none of that energy system. And I was like, what do you mean you don't do
I
any of
mean,
that energy?
intrinsically, you're doing it. Like your body
No
has.
matter what you're doing it. And it's like, yeah. So like I think the other theory would be like nervous system training,
So
like the
is
Power
that
Plus style.
like
But
Brian like turning off the slow part? Is that like what it is
but
in
that
terms?
doesn't necessarily mean like uh that you're not following like principles for energy system development. Because like most of the stuff that he's doing, I mean, I don't want to say what he's doing because I don't know exactly what he's doing. But if you imagine short bursts, like as soon as any slowing of the drill comes up, it's probably in that alactic power range. Um,
I've been more and more interested with these training systems, especially Power Plus is the one that I really want to. Power Plus is the one that intrigues me the most.
yeah, I'd
Power,
like to get out there and spend a few days out there.
yeah, like Power Plus and the Joel Seedman, the 90-degree eccentric isometrics. Those are the two right now that are just completely they're of complete interest right now because man, I want to understand Joel Seaman. I want to understand it. There's just because he talks about the being ready. He talks about breaking into a sprint without warm up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's his whole thing. That's the whole reason why he created his thing. Like if you watch his stuff,
Dude,
they're
I'm gonna have
all
to
in
start.
perfect posture. They're all in perfect posture. They're all like with their feet turned in. They're in perfect biomechanical posture.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
that's something that makes a lot of sense to me.
he looked up the science of muscle physiology. Um because he's a huge nerd. The guy has a PhD. He has a PhD. So this guy's extremely smart. Extremely
Hmm.
smart. Like there's no doubt about it. He was talking about kinetics. Yeah, so he was talking about kinetics. He was talking about muscle physiology. I have it written down, but I'm gonna send you the link to his podcast where he talked about the development of his theory.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
It's pretty
Yeah, I'm
interesting.
gonna I'm gonna listen to his stuff. I never listened to his YouTube or anything. And I'm a podcast guy. I like to listen to podcasts.
So like his whole thing is if you stretch beyond a certain point, your body loses the ability to contract.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. That's what I was telling you the other night about how I was working on the forward fold, how I would come out of it before my body had a chance to just relax in the position.
Right. But I
And like
mean,
my theory behind that, like I've never heard his theory, but my theory was that like if you treat the fascia like a rubber band and you imagine that I'm just like if I'm in a forward fold like a toe touch and I'm stretching out that tissue, well eventually it's going to lose its snap. So by coming out of it often, um, I believe that that would be a more efficient way to do the forward fold.
yes, I completely agree with that, but where I don't where I kind of lose where it loses me is no lift should go past 90 degrees. That's where it kind of loses me a bit
With the
because
Seaman stuff or with that's what you're
yeah,
talking about?
with the semen stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because even if you're doing it fast, it's a big no-no because then your body's losing the ability to maintain attention to maintain tensegrity. So to me, because I think about my sport, when I'm doing my turn, I'm getting into a full extension when my knees are in my chest. Ooh. Like my knees are to my chest, and I'm doing my jump, my full explosion jump from my knees to my chest. So I'm in more than a squat. And it's like if I'm not training a knees over toes, if I'm not training a deep range squat where I'm in full range of motion ass to grass, like I
Yeah.
don't see how that correlates to being better at my sport.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And even when you're jumping, a lot of times you end up in a position where you're like where you're landing and you're landing and you're really getting into a deep squat.
Yeah.
So it's like if you never get in those positions, if you don't strengthen it at all, how can you perform it at very high velocity in your sport safely?
Yep. Yep. You wonder who he works with. Like,
I mean, he works with NFL players, a lot of them, and a lot of MLB players. Where's the Atlanta Falcons?
in what capacity? Just like,
It works with them off season. It works with them. It works with them a lot in season as well. So that's actually
I'd have to look more into his stuff to express an opinion. But
I want to talk a lot more to that guy in my gym who was a protege of his. I want to talk a lot more to him because I want to understand it. I've had very short burst conversations with him,
I mean, I
but
understand it from like what I am gathering from what you're saying from like I've seen some of his stuff. Like I followed him, but like I said, his stuff never pops up for me for some reason. But what was I about to say with that? Oh, for like jumping ability. Like I get the landing part that you were talking about, but typically you're not really gonna jump from more than like a 90-degree position. So I understand not wanting to put that like extra stress on the knee
I mean, again, it
or
depends
wherever
on your
else.
sport. Depends on your sport because
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, exactly. It depends on the sport. Yeah, like with the swimming, like how you were talking about, I could see how that wouldn't make very much sense because
like
you
if
are
I'm
jumping
doing a
from a,
turn, like when you're doing a turn, you're basically like
yeah, you're sandwiched up together.
you're putting your body into your knees, and your
Right.
knees are basically at your shoulders, and then you're pushing from that position.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would definitely need to train that.
I mean, do you need to do a very long stretch? I don't think so, because again, like the body is very twitchy. The elasticity part of the fascia is arguably is just as important as the viscous component. I love that word viscous. It's just
Yeah. Well, I mean, and don't forget too, like ligaments and the muscles themselves have the same, like, not the same, but they also have elastic properties as well.
right. Like
So,
I purely think that the injury that I got because again I never got it checked out until 7 months after, so I can't fully know the cause, but doing those mobility stunts that I was doing on an everyday basis because they were fun,
yeah.
kind of like it shows that the muscle does have an overstretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was highly doubting that that was true. And I don't know who I was trying to prove what to, but I don't know who I was trying to prove what, but you know what I mean? I was just doing these crazy mobility stunts, getting myself in the craziest positions for no
yeah.
reason.
Oh man. Yeah, bro. I do need to start posting about my training because I haven't been posting too many
I mean, just
videos as of late.
make small videos, bro. Like you know how much effort. I mean, you know how much effort it takes. Like it doesn't take much.
No. I
Like
mean, there's
that.
definitely some videos of like my recent training. Like I wouldn't say like too much has really changed from the stuff you're seeing. Like there's videos of like jumping and like a lot of jumping, throwing is on my page right now. Some landmine stuff. I really love the lever arms. I use the lever arms a lot.
Those are cool.
It's
Never
so
used them.
good.
I gotta go up to Jacksonville soon.
Yeah, bro.
I want to
That'd be
use
crazy.
I want to use some kettlebells.
Yeah, come get the 362. You gotta wait till my 450 gets here and my 450-pound kettlebell and my 140-pound club. Wait till those get here.
Oh, so back this is a little backtrack. But speaking of lifting that kind of weight, because your feet have the most sensory, like because your toes have the most sensory, what is it? The highest nerve sense. What is it? The highest,
The only place that has more neurological receptors in the body other than the brain is your feet.
okay. So meaning the stronger you are in your toes, the stronger your body is overall. Like, have you ever thought about why rock climbers are so strong? Because their grip strength, like,
Freakishly strong, bro.
yeah, but I mean, it gets you absurdly strong. If you just work your grip, your whole body's gonna be very strong because like
Well,
this
and their
resistance sends
feet
that
are really
signal.
strong too, because like ideally when you're climbing, most of the weight is on your feet, ideally through footwork. Of course, you're hanging on like and you're using a lot of grip strength as well, but the feet have to be really strong as well.
100%, man. And
And a
people
lot,
don't.
I will say too, like a lot of climbers are into feet training, because like I've taken up climbing, and a lot of them are into feet training because the shoes are like regular shoes, like times 10. Like the shoes are pinpoint, so your toes are literally like this, and like if you're a good like climber, the toes are like really jammed up. Um, I said if you're a good climber because they tend to size down the shoes to create an even smaller shoe so that they can have more pinpoint on like the foothold. But with that being said, like I've talked to them and they're like, yeah, like foot spacers, like we do that, like we'll do the towel, like they do a lot of the stuff for the feet because they understand that this is not good for their toes. And so, and they'll always be popping their shoes off, spacing the toes out. So yeah,
Yeah, I
they
mean,
have strong feet.
it's definitely, I would say the feet training itself, it follows more of a TCM model, traditional Chinese medicine model. Um, because like the Chinese, I feel like, well, the Chinese, the Russians, the Japanese, they've had a more, I don't know, a better understanding of the body than Western medicine has, simply
Yeah.
because they've looked beyond the body itself. They've looked beyond the physical. And even though the fascia is the physical, the feet are the physical, they have a very spiritual, I'd say like a spiritual, um,
Yeah, they have that energy take,
yeah,
the
there you go.
chi, the chi.
The chi, the chai.
Yeah, the chi. It's funny because like in the acupuncture book, they're talking about like yeah, like it transfers like this channel moves chi and blood. They always say chi and blood instead of just blood. Like I feel like a Western model would be like it moves the blood, but the Chinese medicine is like it's always chi and blood.
You are tempting me to get that damn book.
Yeah, bro, it's funny. It's always chi and blood. It's always chi and blood. Yeah, bro. Well, shoot, man. I think we'll probably wrap it up
Yeah, we're
for
hitting the 2 hour mark.
another episode here. You said 2 hour mark?
Yeah, we're at the I think we're at the 2 hour mark.
Another episode of the Power Talks podcast.
I
Any
mean,
closing remarks?
if you're not squeezing anal sphincter, you aren't. Your posture sucks.
Yeah,
That's
there's yeah. I'll just close it out as well with just to piggyback on that. There's no way there there's no way you could possibly be taking your training seriously if uh if the anal sphincter is not in the center of the program.
so. Would you say that's a tactical method of training?
Absolutely. It's that of a
Okay,
tactician's.
but to actually close it out, fascia training is weight training. Weight training is fascia training.
Uh,
Don't
if you
fall. Don't fall into the idiot column.
yeah, never ask a fascia guy how to isolate the fascia.
And keep moving integratedly, integrationally, integrated
Yeah. And
motion
if you do focus on fascia training, just remember that you will be weak.
as hell.
Yeah.
extremely.
Like if you train your feet, you probably will start producing estrogen
And
if you're a
that's why
male.
I'm Andrew's not fit.
So just remember that.
Alrighty.
All
Talk to
right,
you.
and that's another episode. Till next time.
Peace out,
Peace.
everybody.